Gumbo greens is what you need this holiday season. So stay tuned to see how I get this put together. They are so delicious. We're going to start this recipe by cooking 2.5 pounds of smoked turkey in 2.5 quarts of water, and we're going to bring that to a boil and let them cook for about an hour and a half. We have our smoked beef sausage, we have okra, 2 Roma tomatoes, we have some diced bell pepper. I have about 1/4 cup of diced celery, 1/4 cup of diced red onion, and then I also have 3 bunches of greens, which is give or take whether or not I'm going to use all 3 bunches, but I have them just in case. I have 4 tablespoons of butter as well as 3 tablespoons of oil that is heating up in my pot. I also have about a 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic as well as 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. This is going to be used to make the roux base for this gumbo greens. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my vegetables. You see I'm adding my onions and my celery first, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my sausages to this. And you could use whatever sausages you like. You can use andouille sausage. I couldn't find any beef or chicken andouille sausage because I don't do pork, but I figured these beef kielbasa sausages or whatever beef smoked sausage you can find, that'll work just as well for the flavor. So I added my bell peppers and my okra to this, and you want to give this a good stir and let this come to a nice sweat for about a good 3 to 4 minutes until all of the vegetables are completely cooked. Now I'm going to add my flour to this, and this is, like I said, going to make that little roux base. I'm also going to add my minced garlic, which is just enough for that little flavor toward the end, and you want to stir this really well. And I'm stirring this for about a good 3 minutes because we don't want that floury taste when we get ready to add the rest of our broth and flavors from the smoked turkey that we have cooking, and also when we get ready to add our greens. We just don't want that floury taste to it. So you can see at the bottom that the flour has cooked and kind of got brown. So now I'm adding my greens that I have washed and cut up, and I'm just adding them slowly because greens do have the tendency to cook down because of the high water content that are in them. And I'm just going to let them sit a little bit, and then I will also add some of that broth to those greens. That's going to help them to wilt as well and give the greens good flavor as they cook through. Now, once you get to this step, then we're going to give this a good stir, and then we're going to repeat the process with adding the broth and stir with the greens, and then we add more greens and some broth, and then we're stirring. And while you're doing this step, then you're going to get your seasonings and everything together that you're going to use for this delicious gumbo greens. I realized that my pot was getting quite full and I hadn't even added my smoked turkey to this. So I ended up only using about approximately a good 2 of those bunches in this recipe. But you can see that the meat started to fall off of that bone over there of that turkey leg. So that means that the meat is really good and tender and it is ready to be added to these greens. Now, once I added some of that, then I let it cook down covered for about a good 5 to 10 minutes, and I went ahead and deboned the rest of the meat off of that turkey leg because I didn't want to stick the whole bone inside of the greens. Now, the turkey necks I did leave whole because my boys love good turkey necks with their greens, but I did remove the meat off of the bone there. Once I deboned or Yeah, once I deboned that turkey leg, I went ahead and started getting my seasonings together. I have some of my Zatarains Gumbo Filet, have Cajun seasoning. I also have some salt and pepper that is going to be added as well. And I'm using a little bit of poultry seasoning. So I went ahead and poured the broth over into those greens. And then as you can see, look at all of that meat flavor. That's going to go into those greens, as you can see, as they're floating in there. So I'm starting out with some of the poultry seasoning just to add a little bit of the flavor. I'm adding a little bit of the gumbo filet seasoning, just about a good about 2-3 tablespoons, and some Cajun seasoning. Now, of course, you're adding your salt and pepper to taste according to what your family and your taste buds like. All of these seasonings that are added is according to your taste buds, but it's approximately 1 to 2 tablespoons of each, other than the salt. I did not use a tablespoon of salt because the smoked meat had a lot of salt in it with the smoked turkey and with the sausage. But I did want to make sure that it was all cooked well and had a good enough seasoning and flavor to it, because you didn't want this gumbo to be bland. So as you cook it down and as the broth and everything starts to simmer, you get a spoon, you just kind of taste it as you go to see if you needed to add more or anything. So once I added my broth and my seasonings, I let it cook covered for about a good 40 to 45 minutes. Then when I felt that they were just about done, I went ahead and added tomatoes, because in my gumbo, I like a little bit of a tomato base, and I figured tomatoes, this is totally optional, will add some extra flavor and that little extra pop of color. After I added the tomatoes, I went ahead and I covered them again and let them cook for about another 10 minutes, and you can see the colors of that in the gumbo, and look at all of that little gravy at the bottom. That roux has made this green juices so rich. And after I let them cover for about a good 10 minutes, oh boy, they were ready to plate up and eat. I had made me some chicken and macaroni and cheese, and of course you gotta have some cornbread. Look at that plate. Look at those gumbo greens. Yes, I did a little bit of chicken bake on my chicken, but the combo of those greens and the cornbread, this whole dish was delicious. So if you like this recipe, please click like, share, subscribe. Let me know if gumbo greens is something you want to try with your family this holiday season. Something a little bit different, and you will not be disappointed. Thank you for watching. God bless, and have a safe and happy holiday season.